Welcome to Smart Branding, a podcast dedicated to branding, naming, and domain names. I'm Tatiana Bonneau, and with my guests, we try to help you create and grow strong, memorable, and meaningful brands online. I believe time is one of our most precious assets, and so I want to thank you in advance if you decide to spend the next 30 minutes with us. I promise to do my best to make those worth it. Let's go! So today I say welcome to JJ. He's an entrepreneur born in Australia, currently in the US, and founder of Whitefriar, a cost-effective PR press and media distribution platform. Thank you for joining us, JJ. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tatiana. Excited to help your guests and interviewees, learn some great facts and tactics.
Wonderful. Let's start with a bit of a background, as I always do. Give me a bit of an idea, and you have quite an interesting background. I did have a look, like it goes down to even like you've been a magician. Like that's quite unusual. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, of course. I started my career in Australia. I started in show business. So for my whole life, I was in the business of know, like, and trust, getting people to understand who I am and what I do. And I started as a magician, and that kind of took me all around the world to many different countries and to many different cultures, to many different clients. And I really made parties and events like high levels. So people would hire me, pay me a lot of money to come in and make their corporate event or their business event with a lot of energy and a lot of entertainment. And then, after I left magic, I moved on to speaking. And throughout that journey, though, I realized that I only started to get a lot of opportunities when I was in the media. Like when I was on television, I was in the press, or I was on podcasts, or I was on, I was seen more. So when I started building this tech company called Whitefriar, I figured out that, well, wow, people really need PR. People really need to get themselves out there. There's a lot of amazing entrepreneurs that are talented and they have a great product, but no one knows them. And if no one knows you, no one can find you, then it's going to be a challenge. So as I mentioned, I started my career as an entertainer. I built that to, millions of views online on YouTube and really got myself out there. And then, I transitioned into a PR firm, which transitioned into a tech company.
And before we go into what does Whitefriar do, tell me a little bit more about how did you choose the name? What was the reasoning there? And I see you got the matching.com domain name as well. What considerations did you have on that?
Yeah, so obviously my PR firm, before I got into Whitefriar, I had my PR firm called Ace of Spades Agency. Ace of Spades went very well because it was a magician. So I was actually very surprised I got that name. I didn't think I got that name at all. And just because I thought Ace of Spades was very common, but Ace of Spades, how it sounds, how it's spelled, agency.com, I got that, which I focused on thought leadership. And then my co-partner for Whitefriar, we were talking about, we met actually in Miami, and the problem at hand was, hey, how do I scale my normal company? And he said, well, the first thing you need to do is it's going to be challenging if it's just you. So we got to get it away from you. Let's put it into a tech company. And Whitefriar wasn't actually my name. He came up with that name. And, Whitefriar, did you have a chance to have a look at, where Whitefriar is from? Or did you want me to tell you?
Yeah, go ahead. For our guests as well, that'll be fun to know.
Yeah. So Whitefriar, it's the origination from it is it's obviously like there's multiple different ones. Like there's a Whitefriar Street in London. There's a Whitefriar Church. It's just kind of this elegant, very English kind of name that we went for. And he kind of said the name, and I said, hey, do we have the name branding on it? And he said yes. And I said, let's just run it. The interesting thing from your point of view, I love names. Like I will sit for hours and hours and hours and make sure the name is perfect. But this time it was challenging because if you think about the name Whitefriar, it's like, okay, it doesn't really mean anything. There's no like huge origination story from it, but we had the name, it was free. I just said, let's just commit to it. And it's different. So that's the way that's kind of how it came up.
I do have to say there are different ways, and I find it very curious how there are many different ways to come up with a name that actually works
I wouldn't say there's one, classic way. Like there are companies who, would hire somebody who is a professional namer, others who would have, I don't know, their marketing agency do that for them, others who would, come up with it with their family. And it's funny you mentioned that, like, it wasn't your original idea of a name, and you didn't sort of fall in love with it, or it wasn't like a strike of genius you had, but you committed to it, and because it had some qualities and made it work. And I was literally yesterday or the day before listening to what was her name, the founder of Bumble, and she was talking about the name Bumble, which was obviously a huge success. And she had a very similar story where she said that was a colleague of her who came up with the name. She wanted another name, but they, had all the good arguments as to why would it make a good name. And she was like, okay, let's commit to it and make it work. And it did. And it did, big time. So it's good to kind of know that obviously it shouldn't be a random name, but especially when you're working with a team and you have people who have good arguments as to why that is a good name, it's also a way to commit to it and make it work.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer of I and this is my perspective, but I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs and business people sit in things that they don't need to sit in for too long. Now, I'm not saying names. There are professional companies that you can spend $250,000 with for name branding and theming, and I don't look down on that, but I know a lot of people they sometimes sit in things that aren't going to move it forward. So if you're smart and you just do a little bit of research, make sure that you're not competing against a huge keyword, or that you've at least got the social sites, you're not going to be outbid already on the internet. Like, let's say you're looking for real estate, or magic, or color or red or something like that. That's so common. I'm a big believer of like getting to the point of where you need to get to, and why I think that's important as well. Like, you just look at the most biggest companies, like look at Apple. Look, like, these are not like Apple, like, really, it's like no one in who would ever thought a phone company is going to be called Apple. So I think, when you start to look at these big companies with just extremely unique names, for me, at the end of the day, if you build the brand, that's all that matters. They'll know the name. So
yeah, no, definitely. I think it is important. It is very important, but it's not a thing of its own. And if that's going to stop you from, as you say, moving forward, and equally something that I say oftentimes to people when we are talking about domain names, like, obviously the best domain name and the best domain name for one company is not the best domain name for another company. So obviously the best domain name for your company is going to help with your marketing, with your reach, with your customers, retention, repeat customers, all of that. But it's not going to save you if your product or your service is bad. Like, exactly. It's not going to happen. So it all goes together, and it's part of a mix. Talk to me about Whitefriar then. What do you offer exactly? What do you do?
So, the thing about Whitefriar is we're a tech company, and we're a self-service solution for PR. So the problem in the PR space is the PR industry hasn't changed for 100 plus years. Traditional PR is you pay anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000 a month for a minimum of 3 to 12 months, and you have a team that obviously reaches out to the media, pitches you, and you're kind of in this weird position where you don't know what's going to happen. It's a lot of hype and it's a lot of hope, and the churn rate for PR is extremely high. Meaning the people that work with PR agencies, even some of the listeners, they work with a PR firm, didn't get them what they wanted, or they're just not happy. So I realized that, like, how can I come into this space and do something completely different? So I'm like, most people, when they get PR, one of the biggest wins is usually press. Press is getting into Forbes or Bloomberg or TechCrunch or NASDAQ or Huffington Post or some local media. So I said, I have all these contacts for 15 years. I've been traveling around the world as an entertainer, being self-driven by myself, meeting all these people. When I came to the States, obviously I lived in LA. And then I obviously built more contacts. And I said, imagine if people could pick and choose a model where instead of you paying a retainer, long-term agreements, you can literally go on a platform, put your name and details in, and then pick and choose what you want. You pay for it one time. It's transparent. It's one fee. And if you don't make it happen, we give you the money back. And that's it's never been done before. And people, it's scaling really well because people know they can buy what they want. It's like a marketplace for PR. It's not, you don't have to write the article yourself. You don't have to pitch to journalists. We take care of everything for you. And by doing that, you can get into the media. So that, okay, I'm launching this new product in February, or, it's coming up to 2024. Like I want to position myself differently. You can go on the platform, you can pick and choose the publications, you can see how much it is, and then you can buy it. And then, within the certain time frame, it will come out. So we're coming into this space and kind of disrupting the industry.
And is that suitable for everyone, or how does it work? Like, is there a certain type of, for example, I oftentimes have entrepreneurs saying, we are in B2B, we don't, need to have a great website and our domain name doesn't matter because we deal with, business clients. Or you also have like personal brands, so people who have personal brands, and then you have the business, or different size of businesses, different geographic location, who can use your services?
I think like anything, it's every business can use PR, right? Because every business should be promoting. Now, some companies think, we don't want to promote, we want to live off the referral business. Once again, it just depends on the level that you want to play, and if you want to be a $5 million company and you're doing that with referrals, fantastic, happy for you. But the companies that, usually use PR is they want to be better. They want to be bigger. They have a different goal and a different belief system and a different strength. Like, look at the biggest companies in the world. Like, they're using PR, Apple, Virgin, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, even smaller companies, they know the power of it. So I would say, our main kind of focus for our kind of platform is usually financial firms, startups, companies that are looking to position themselves as the go-to in this space, and people that are looking to really increase that brand awareness and credibility. So companies who are looking for leads, PR isn't for, we're not working for companies that are struggling with leads. We're looking for companies come to us and like, hey, we need to reconfirm to the marketplace that we are the best bakery in South London, or we need to confirm to the marketplace that our VC firm, we're the most trusted advisors. So PR really helps when, there's a lot of competition in your space, and to really make you stand out. And it's, PR's trust. So companies that are constantly dealing with like, why should we trust you? Why should we listen to you? Why you? This is what PR gives. It gives you the social proof to really confirm to the marketplace that, okay, this is the team that I'm working with. And without that, you can still win. It just makes it a lot harder. PR is like an asset. It's like, let's say, Tatiana, me and you go to a restaurant one night and we go in a really like simple, normal, just a $50,000 car, right? No one's going to look at us, right? People are not going to say anything. If you and I the next night go in a brand new Lamborghini Aventador, the $1 million car, people are going to be like, okay, what do they do? Why do they do it? Who are these people? This is what kind of gives you. It gives you that difference, that positioning, and it gets you things that you wouldn't have got before.
And what are your thoughts on, as I mentioned, there are some entrepreneurs who would say, B2B don't need to do PR. Also, I feel, strike that. Past maybe 5 years, possibly more, there has been like a huge shift and focus on individuals. So even though people are like, oh, I don't need I'm not a brand, like this, my company, and I'm, living my life, I feel it's kind of pretty much impossible nowadays to do that. where, and I'm looking at younger people and the way they buy things, and they're so obsessed with who is behind that brand, who is behind that company, and not just like the CEO and principals level, but even, lower down, like different branches and managers and directors and whatever. So how can PR, if at all, help on that, on managing those personas who are, real living people with real lives, but they are judged as part of those companies, and they actually define how people see those companies?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So, before I got into the tech, the tech aspect, I specialized in thought leadership PR. So it's really CEOs, founders that are wanting to use their personality and wanting to get out there, because they realize that, yes, people want to get to know the person behind the company. What does the CEO stand for? What does he do in his daily life? Gone are the days where it's just one product and it's like, that's it. I want to know the story behind the brands, and people buy from people. So for a perfect example, let's say two companies selling, let's say it's a bakery, right? And one of the companies is just promoting their, croissants and their breads and their exquisite cakes. And then the next guy is same thing, same product, but it's him talking about how he originated his story. Why did he get into the croissant? Why did he get into the bakery business? How they differentiate. Look at the way they treat their staff. Look at the way they treat their customers. You're buying into him. You're like, hey, I love what this guy stands for. I like that he cares, right? There's a million bakeries, let's say in London or in Australia or in America, but like I'm connected to this guy. So when they want to go for a croissant or let's go for breakfast, hey, you know what? I like what that guy stands for. I like Jim. I want to go to his place. So hopefully I can meet him. So people are always gravitated towards people, always first. Yeah, you're right. People are wanting to get to know the owners behind the company. And from the companies that we've helped hundreds of companies in multiple different industries. You're right. People are realizing, like back in the 90s or early 2000s, it was kind of that one guy, the one crazy guy, right? Oh, that's the crazy guy. He's always on television. Like gone in days now. If you're a ghost, it makes it actually it ruins your reputation further than actually if you put yourself out there. Like it actually, people like, why can't I find who this guy is? Like, where is he? Like, why does he only have a LinkedIn profile? He doesn't have anything else. Like, this is how people are thinking now. So people are realizing that if they leverage themselves as a thought leader, if they leverage themselves as someone that they can, know, like, and trust, a lot of people as well are now building other businesses along other businesses. So it can really help you, get more eyeballs, get more exposure, and you can funnel that into whatever you want.
Absolutely. And I feel, we're so demanding as audience nowadays. And just as you were saying, like, if you can't work out, who's the person behind the company, it doesn't even matter how good the product is anymore. It just made me think, recently I had that experience where I was looking for the owner of a company, and the only thing I found was a LinkedIn profile that doesn't seem to be very active, doesn't have a picture. It's just the name, nothing else, nothing, no other profiles, no appearances whatsoever anywhere. And it's not just, it gives you that bad image of the company. You like, there's something dodgy here. Like, is that even a real person?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that feeling that you just shared with me, you're not going to call up that company and say, hey, but that's the feeling that you get when you Google the company or Google the LinkedIn, and it puts a bit of a distaste in your mouth. So I just find that if you can put yourself out there without having to be someone you're not, right? And there are people and there are teams like mine to help you do that. There is a way to be able to do it, and you'll never lose from it. Every company or person that we've helped, they've never said, oh, I'm really annoyed that more people can understand what we stand for or who we are, or that, people are now wanting to work with me. I don't have to being the sales process is hard, or the leads are coming through quicker and easier. So for people listening, don't look at it like, well, I don't want to put myself out there because that's not kind of like our brand or that's not, we don't need to put ourselves out there. Look at it from this point of view. If you had more eyeballs to your business or your company, do you feel that leads would become easier? Do you think the sales cycle would become quicker? Do you think that more people, you'd have probably a better long-term customer database because they can get to know you? That's the way people should be shifting their mindset behind it, rather than like, well, I'm not that person. I'm not that personality.
And what about people who are just like, you can be great at doing whatever in business, but maybe you're just not social, like you don't like talking to people, you don't like to put yourself out there. Like, is there any solution for those type of people, or should they just try and like delegate that to somebody else in the company and stay out of it?
Yeah, there are two strategies. So we've worked with founders who say, hey, look, we're gonna what a lot of companies are now are doing. And this is the other thing, just to kind of bring up point why you kind of have to put yourself out there, because some of the company founders that we've worked with that kind of have done it for so long, they realize that they're not stupid. They realize, okay, we gotta have a CEO that's known. We gotta have some kind of spokesman. So we find that a lot of CEOs now that are hired, if they don't have a profile, or if they're actually not front facing, it's more challenging for them to get the role, because companies are realizing they do need to have this. So that's one element. If the person's not the most, then they're not the most extrovert, let's say, or putting themselves out there. This is where you can use services like mine to make your life easier. Not everyone has to be doing content, like social media content, but you can be creating, thought pieces on LinkedIn. You can be getting in you can be showing up one time a month on television. Like, you could be doing a podcast. Like, gone are the days you've got to speak to someone. You don't have to be this crazy personality, but you must use these media services that we have access to make it easy for you.
And I guess, that's a great way to look at it. There's so many, it's not like, there was a period where the only way to get yourself out would be, to get a TV spot or get a front page somewhere. Now you have so many ways to interact with people that you can absolutely find and craft some sort of a strategy where it sits comfortably with who you are and what you like doing and how much you like sharing, which is where I guess somebody like yourself would come in to help shape that up.
Yeah. And, the one thing I will share, and this is a little bit deeper for your audience, but the reason why most people don't put themselves out there, it isn't because they don't want their companies to succeed. Tatiana, the reason why people don't put themselves out there, it's a fear of judgment.
Absolutely.
That's the number one reason. It doesn't make a logical sense. Okay, so what you're saying to me, ma'am or sir, that you don't want your company to succeed? No, of course I do. Then why don't you want to put yourself out there? And then, once we get down to the root of it, it's a fear of judgment. A lot of people have, I say this story, a lot of people are living, the best life, 37 stories up in their office, guarded by, their staff and their business. It's like, they don't have to showcase themselves. They don't have, they have this image and this status and this character and this belief structure. This is who I am. But the thing is if you can show them how to do that without losing their respect, without losing what they stand for, it's just got to come out of them in a very authentic way. And it's really important that, people now are buying off connection. They always say these community and connection. They want to connect with you. They don't need to be sold and pushed it down their throat. Like, people need to buy. They will buy. But if that's all you have, from my perspective, I just think it's so much harder. I just feel like that and I've proven this time and time again, not only with myself, because I come from show business. So like, it's easy for me because my whole life I've been on TV and on stage. But for people who've never kind of had that kind of in front of the camera activities over their life, The moment they just do a little bit of media, like just a couple of articles or a couple of different podcasts, their audience or the people that know them, they immediately get respect. That's what they want. Hey, Tatiana, that article was great. Hey, that television show was great. Wow, I didn't know that you used to do that. That's what people want. And then the moment they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't die. I didn't feel stupid. This actually makes sense. Then it starts to happen. So I think it's that first step, but then that's why you have people like us to help you do that, in an easy, simple way that doesn't kind of lose your respect and your authority and your power of what you built.
Is there such a thing like doing too much PR? Can you do that? Can you like go crazy on, that's like, have you had that, or do you feel it's possible to say, okay, that's too much now?
You know what? It's a great question. I think it's kind of like saying, can you ever have too much confidence? Not really. Like, look at Richard Branson, right? Richard Branson constantly, one of his books is talking about like the importance of PR. Richard Branson, like, he has, I think, over 700 companies. It's a lot, right? That he's in with. He is constantly using PR, constantly putting himself out there, constantly being this crazy, outrageous style that comes naturally to him. I don't think it hurts. What I do think you got to be cautious of is PR, obviously, is reputation. So it depends on where it can go wrong if you're building an audience and you're not staying the same with your messaging. So for example, I live here in Miami, Florida, and we this is what we see a lot of, and around the world as well. One person is a professional. Let's say they're selling real estate. They're on their when you Google them, they're selling luxury houses, and they're showcasing themselves to the world. Minimum, let's say $5 million houses plus. So they're doing that. Great. The image looks good. And then the thing is, then they put themselves out there on the internet. Maybe they go on a boat. Maybe they're at a party. They put it online. It showcases themselves like that. That is PR. You're showcasing yourself, whether it's personal or professional, but they put themselves out there in a way that doesn't work well with the audience that they've built, meaning it's a conflicting of message. And let's say they put themselves out there in a not so great way, where they showcase themselves in a state that they shouldn't be seen, or maybe they're wearing very little clothes on a boat. The problem with that is that now the reputation, you're starting to lose brand trust. You're starting to lose. It's going to really hurt the market, because people are like, well, I may be hoping to get this guy to sell my $9.5 million house in Los Angeles. And now I see this. I don't know if I should trust this person anymore. So this is why it is very important that you have to be very cautious of what also goes out to the internet as well. And that's what we specialize in too. Like, because one post, one article, one thought can ruin someone's reputation. And, look at Bud Light. Do you remember the Bud Light incident that happened maybe about last year or early this year? Bud Light beer? I mean, we almost weekly, honestly, you have something happening nowadays like that. It's crazy. Right. And, once again, like, I don't know high enough of the choice of why that happened. I'm sure there's a bigger agenda, but let's just say from my point of view, from a media standpoint or a customer standpoint, they built this brand for this kind of audience for their whole life. Bud Light, it's the fisherman, it's the guy going, it's usually the man that's, the down to earth man. He's going fishing, he's going on a boat, he's going having football with his friends. And then they bring out a completely different brand identity and try to, disrupt the market, which I don't know why. And look at their stock price is tarnished. Like, that's where PR can go really bad for you. So, and it's the same thing with McDonald's, or it's the same thing when they realize, oh, the salads aren't as healthy. It's easier to eat a burger than actually it is to eat a salad, because there's more calories in a salad. So this is why it's very important for companies to have someone on board, like ourselves, like to really make sure that, hey, before you make a change, how is that going to affect your whole market, your whole your advisors, your investors, your customers, your internal staff? You got to be careful of those decisions. So I know I went on a little bit there, but yes, PR, the correct PR is never a problem. It's when you start going down a different kind of PR that showcases you in a bad way for reputation, where it can hurt.
No, I absolutely agree. And I can draw a parallel there with domain names, actually. And I think the key thing there is having a strategy, not just like winging it. I don't think you can afford to do that even when you're on your own. It's probably not a great idea, but then like you're the only one who's living with the consequences. When you have a company and you have a team and, literally like you're talking about people, those people, on your team, they have families, they have a livelihood. You can't take those risks. And, when it comes to PR, like you say, go around doing things that are not well thought out and planned, because that affects your business, and therefore all of those people who have put their trust and your customers as well into that business. And I have the same thing with domains. It's like, if you're gonna build a little blog for yourself and whatever, nobody cares, do your thing. But if you're going to build a company that you want to, last for whatever, and then it's going to be affected by so many things, you have to have a strategy. And any big enough brand that has survived, some decent period of time does realize that one way or another. So I feel.
And you make a really good point there too. Like, just reminds me as well, like that's why I like having these kind of open dialogue conversations, because we're always learning, right? I'm a student, just like you are, like we all are. You touched on a good point. Like, what kind of company do you want to have? Do you want to have a company that lasts 2 years, or do you want a company to last as long as you can? Because last time I checked, a lot of us want to build this. The reason why we build companies is there is some kind of passion towards it. We're interested in it. Even if you want to sell it, like my Whitefriar company, we want to sell, but I love the journey of media. I love the ability to be, there's 193 countries in the world. I love the ability to be in all of them. I love the ability to connect with people in Germany and Tunisia and Sri Lanka and Australia through what I can do, because it's such a global service that we have. And so I think that's the question people have to ask themselves, like, do you want to stay in this game forever or a long time, or do you just want to be a fly-by-night company? Because fly-by-night companies, you can make the quick millions and then bounce, but I'm in the business of long-term trust and reputation. And the greatest thing too, just to touch on this, if you build some kind of notoriety for you, and I've proven this multiple times with myself, you can move your people who trust you into a different space. So if you start, let's say, as a bakery owner, right, and you're doing a couple of $1 million a year, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to sell this company. I'm done. Like, I'm tired of doing the 3 a.m. shifts to 12 p.m. Like, you want a change of heart, and you want to let into you're actually really good in investing into companies. That's your thing. Well, guess what? The people that have known you in that industry, even if you're not selling croissants anymore, if they know, if your character stands, he shows up, he's professional, I trust what he says, he does what he says, you're just now going into a different business and changing the service, the model, changing the product, but they like you. It's like, have you ever worked with someone and you're like, you just given them money or work with them, you don't really care about what they do. Oh yeah, like you don't need to read the proposal, you don't need to go through I trust you, here's the money, right? I've done that multiple times. Hey, I like the guy.
That's pretty much all of the people I work with nowadays are like that, which I have to say.
Exactly. And it's crazy because think about it, like if you didn't know the person and it's a cold call or a cold email, you're going to do your due diligence. You're going to look at what they do. You're going to look at everything. You're going to ask for testimonials. But when you know that person and you just know in their mind, like it's simple for me in PR. Is a person in your mind a yes or a no? That's the way I look at it. There's no maybes, because in maybes are no. Like if you don't have 100% certainty, like, hey, what do you think of Jay? Oh yeah, he does this. Great. Like done. That's it. That's how people make decisions. So if you have enough of those people, right, they may not buy straight away if you pitch them something, but they're more willing to listen to you, you know? And I think people forget that because they haven't seen it on a global level. You know, they've got it within their close family and friends. Like if you go to your sister or your brother, your mom or your dad or girlfriend, boyfriend, and talk to them about something. Hey, I want to talk to you about this business idea. Okay, I'll listen to you. They're going to be more likely to like give you some feedback or maybe work with you. Imagine having that with 1 million people. Like that is powerful stuff. You really can do whatever you want to do. And if you're a professional, your reputation holds for itself. Like you're just a great person in business. Like you can't lose. You literally can't lose.
Do you know, you mentioned Richard Branson earlier. I think he's an absolute like masterclass himself of everything we were just talking about. He's literally, I think he had a personal brand before that was a thing even, and he's just run with it. And it's so honest, so authentic, and it's so like you can see him in all of his companies. Literally, you can see his spirit, his character, down to the people that work in those companies. And it does exactly what you just said, where if like he can come up with whatever tomorrow, honestly, whatever, and I'll be like, yep, I'm buying that.
Yeah.
Because
exactly. Elon. Same thing with Elon, right?
Not Elon. A fan, but that's a different story. Okay, but I get what I get is the same thing. It's just not my kind of a character.
Exactly.
But it works. Absolutely, it works. So, to a point where I'm actually in Ukraine at the moment, and he's had some like opinions that I completely disagree with. He's had some genius stuff that he's done as well, but on those that I disagree with, you still have people like where he's openly saying things that are pretty much, I would consider, you know, against as a position when it comes to the Ukraine-Russia war. But there are people in Ukraine still buying Teslas. That's like how strong that is, where it's like, no, that person, it's, you know, the thing. That's it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's interesting. That's how strong a brand can be. Even if says something about your character, your culture, or company, people will push through. Like there was a story once of this lady, and she's high and she doesn't eat meat. She hates, you know, she's very strong on meat and what it does and this. And then interesting, I didn't say they caught, but she was known to take her children to McDonald's to get a Happy Meal. And they said to her, you know, for what you stand for, why are you going to a place where we know that McDonald's isn't the best probably version of meat and the way they look, you know, most right? I'm pretty assuming that they're not grass fed in the paddocks of a beautiful country. And she said, yeah, but my kids love the time there. You know, they love the Happy Meal. You know what I mean? Or, you know, they probably don't do it that often, but it's like, it's still interesting. Like, even if you can be so strong about something you care about, you'll still go to a place which makes it feel good. And for her kids, like, they love it. She's not going to push it down their throat. So it's fascinating to me.
Absolutely. I think that's what's fascinating about brands in general, that it can be so strong as a effect it has, an affinity people develop, that they would actually they would come up with justifications with something like, so it's not even you need to sell, you can, you know, literally do bad things, and people would like work out things in their head to justify why that happened and still buy your thing.
Yeah, of course. People look for the reason. What do they say? McDonald's. What business is McDonald's in? It's not in the food business, the real estate business, right? Which, you know, it's a saying, they are in the food business, but they say that is because, you know, and I don't know what it's like in Ukraine, but definitely in Australia. Like I'm in America now and I live in Miami, so there's food everywhere. But, you know, if you're driving, they saying in these kind of large cities that a McDonald's is usually, you know, within about 5 minutes drive, 5 to maximum minutes drive. So no matter what happens, and you're hungry and you see the Golden Arches, like you want to eat there or not. And
it's
now
the convenience,
they have options, which they're smart. They realize that, you know, not everybody wants to eat a burger. There's salads and there's clean stuff. It's just there. It's easy. Oh, it's there. The brand, it's consistent. I know
that's it. It's easy. It's quick. It's, you know what you're gonna get. Whether you know it's not gonna be. Yeah, it's probably not gonna be. You know, your 5-star whatever, but you know exactly what you're getting. And I think you know that because you're traveling. When you're traveling a lot, you really appreciate just knowing what you're gonna get. You know.
Fantastic response, and this just proves our point together that humans, right? Because I'm in the human business of PR, how we make decisions, why we make decisions. People want it easy. People they don't want to think about it. That's why you'll go back to the restaurant, even if it's not the best, because you'd rather go to something that's safe and that's trustworthy and reliable that then go sometimes and have to take a chance, right? And the high, you know, and it depends on your risk tolerance as well. It's the same thing with investing. People will just like invest into Apple or Tesla, or because it's like, well, I know them, like I see them, like, you know, I don't feel like they're going to lose anytime soon, rather than a brand new ABC company they've never heard of. So it's fascinating that, and that all comes from, once again, brand, know, like, and trust. Brand, know, like, and trust.
Absolutely. Great. Well, that's been really fun. Last question. We're coming up to the end of the year. I don't even know how that flew, honestly. I feel like it was like a week ago when I was asking people, so what are you going to do in 2023? And now we're like, okay, what are you going to do in 2024? It's just crazy. Yeah. So what are you looking forward to? What do you feel are some like trends and things that you're excited about in PR for this coming year?
Well, you know, with this tech company that we're scaling, you know, what I'm really excited about is we're disrupting the space, meaning all the people that are working with us, they realize that, hey, I can have guaranteed PR every month or as much as I want. It's very simple. It's easy to use. It's not an agency model, meaning so you don't have to go through that. Sometimes tedious. We got to get to know you. You got to get to know us. Are we the right fit? It's a very simple self-service solution. And also what we're planning to do is create 100 publications, 100 publications, meaning in different industries. So for example, we're kind of trying to create the next Forbes or the next Bloomberg or USA Today. The media space is really hurting right now. You know, we didn't talk about this too much, but the traditional media used to be, you know, there used to only be a handful of publications or outlets that you would go for your news. It's changed now. Because of content, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, people, like blogs, podcasts, the media landscape is different. So there's conflicting messages. People don't need to rely on one. So these media sites are hurting. They're not getting the attention they usually got. So now they're starting to lose. And that's why when you go on a website, like, man, there's so many ads on this page. You know, if you go to a site, Forbes has put up a paywall now. I mean, you have to read Forbes. Like, I don't want to pay to read Forbes. Like, so you're going to start to look around. So where I'm going with this is we're going to start creating our own media assets. So now we have eyeballs and attention. And when you have the eyeballs and attention, you can really, you know, take them wherever you want.
Cool. Let's you're gonna be busy. I wanted to ask you. I said that that was a lie. I said that was the last question, but I have to ask you, what do you think about AI? Because you mentioned content and media, and there's so much now going on with that. And I'm seeing and I'm sure you are, and everyone is like sick of anything that starts with "I hope you're well," and you know, however, and there's a set of words that ChatGPT is using that when you see in a publication, it's just like, oh my God, not another one of those. Right. How do you see that evolving?
So, you know, I think in any kind of smarter professional would understand that AI is a tool, right? I know some people have different conspiracies that it's all going to take over us. You know, right, for now, it's a tool. So it's supposed to help us. It's not supposed to be everything. And I think a lot of people just jumped on the gimmick of AI and like, oh, everything's going to be automated, everything's going to be done. What's going to happen is that people are more going to be wanting that human connection from people. Hence, know, like, and trust again. Because if they while they love the idea of automation and speed and having things done for them with AI, they still want that touch point of a human, because no one, which human wants to buy from a robot? Even if you make it so good, I feel like we use AI for maybe some, faster ideas or to maybe structure a document, but we're not going to just use AI to run everything. It's not the place for the business that we have. Now, I know some companies, there's a company in China right now killing it, where they have AI generated hosts and they have media and it's like a 24/7 news show and they have unlimited hosts.
That's cool. I think I saw something.
I think that's incredible, because at the end of the day, what it's done for their companies, like now you don't need to pay a $500 a day host. You don't have to have running the stories. It's just media, spins it out with AI. They figured out how to make the person not like a robot and make it interesting. And that's what because people are doing that for news. They don't really care who the person is. They just need to know news. So I think for that, I think it's great. But I don't think that the company just, okay, now that's it. Like we're not going to use humans anymore and everything's going to be run off AI. But you just got to use it effectively to make your life easier.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think it's a tool, just like, well, it's funny to think now, but when you had search engine or even the internet itself coming out, and then search engines, like I feel it's really crazy and funny to think now, say, people can now go to Wikipedia or search Google and get all the information. So, schools are dead and teachers are dead. It's like, nope. So yeah, I feel it is a tool, and people are just going to get good at using it. And those who are better are going to, have the better positions and advantages. So yeah, absolutely agree with that. And I think one important thing that you said, and it's a cool one to end on, I guess, is what you just said, in that when we're like flooded with all that artificial intelligence generated content, it actually, what it does, it's highlighting that and making you even more appreciate the human generated content and the human connection. And I'm going to be like a pain and make a parallel with domain names, but it did make me think of that it was a similar thing with the .com domains, where like first it was like, we're going to have search engines, so domain names don't matter, so nobody cares, it's dead, .com is dead. It wasn't. Then it was, we're going to have applications and everything is going to be on the phone and it doesn't matter and it's going to be dead, and it didn't. And then it's like, we're going to have all of those extensions and it's going to kill the .com and and that didn't happen. It actually, what it does is it actually cemented it even more as that, like, if you have your brand name without any added words in a .com, you are the thing, like you are the one of, your whatever industry, space, service. And it's a very similar feeling I'm getting from that, what you just said about the AI generated content.
Yeah, I like what you said. I definitely agree, to come back to what you do, like definitely own, like at the end of the day, your name branding or who you are on the internet, it's real estate on the internet. So don't make it hard for yourself to own that space or own that name, because like there's nothing worse trying to find a company and it's like, is it this company? Is it that company? Like you want to make it easy. You want to make, once again, coming back to like how people make decisions, make yourself easy to find, easy to spell, or easy to release, remember, and you control that customer journey. Confusion isn't a sold mind. When someone's confused, they're not buying from you. People don't have time. They've got a million things going on. They're looking at their phone while they're picking up their kids. They're on the gym. Like it's the harder you make it for people to get to know you, it just makes it harder for everything. So this is why it's important to have people like you and people like me and just some strategic direction. Because, Tatiana, as you know, most people aren't entrepreneurs. You got to remember that. We're in this space. Most people in life are employees. They're 9-to-5 people. And most business people aren't entrepreneurs either. Business people aren't entrepreneurs. Business people run a business. Being an entrepreneur, a lot of people forget what the word entrepreneur is. Entrepreneur is a person that takes larger, higher financial risk into a business, right? Higher financial risk, right? So, if you're just because you started a business and, oh, okay, cool, I got a little bit of funding and, I'm going to start the business, doesn't just make you an entrepreneur. That's not how it works. So I think a lot of people just also aren't knowledgeable enough about this as well. They bought a business, they got some money, they hired some employees. That a lot of people don't know. They don't know the high-end strategic stuff. So it's our job to advise them on decisions like this.
Absolutely. And I think that's a very, very good point. And I've seen that, sadly, I always bring that example. It's when 10-ish years ago, maybe a bit more, and I had a IT company and we were building websites and software, and we built a website for two guys, London-based, very cool guys. They got some money from their family, graduated from a good school, built a website, and then they were like, "Okay, so now we're gonna hire. We're gonna rent an office." They got an office in super location, bought some suits, literally expensive, cool suits and everything, and sat there waiting for the phone to ring. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because exactly what you just said, a lot of people think, I'm just going to build a great website or offer a great service, do all my calculations, whatever, put the suit, and I'm going to sit down and the phone is going to ring. It's not. Yeah. It's not. So you're absolutely right. Yeah, you have to have strategy in general, and then break it down to all those elements that, as you mentioned, is, what you're doing, what I'm doing, and what a lot of other professionals are doing in order to make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, that's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. We're going to include all the ways people can get in touch with you in the comments to the podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us in this episode of Smart Branding Podcast. Feel free to visit smartbranding.com for more information and reach out if you have any suggestions, questions, ideas, or just want to learn more about how a good domain name strategy can help you build a strong and successful brand. See you next time.